All right, welcome back to the Pennsylvania and Berwind. This is Wasted Tries, and we are here with Isla. Isla is moving mighty slowly, but I hope it's moving slowly enough because we are filling up with spent grains here at Universal Sugar. And the situation as we left it last time is that we have arrived here with the intention to unload some spent grains, but actually what we really needed to do was to load some spent grains. That's too bad, that's my mistake. It is my first playthrough of the route, so I had set it up one way and set up the spreadsheet another way, and that's my bad. But one positive development since the last episode is that the filling up of these cars with spent grains should be a lot easier, assuming I'm doing this correctly, because the facility has moved slightly. Indeed, I have shifted it down a little bit so that I can load 4 cars at a time. And similarly for the sugar track, that as well should be a lot easier. So yeah, we're getting 5 cars loaded here, and I believe we have a total of 11. Whereas it looked like it could potentially only load 2 or 3. So that's going to make the shunting. And in general, because I've tried to kind of use longer trains in my playthroughs, it's really helping me a lot to lengthen the tracks. Lengthen the loading areas a little bit, even if that means, slightly tweaking the Pennsylvania and Berwind versus what it was originally looking like. So that's what I've done here, and we just finished up at Glosser Brothers, and that track as well I lengthened slightly after we finished. Fixing the barn door after the horses have fled, I know, but still. So yeah, let's just switch out these 5 cars and get ready to load another 5 more. And this will also facilitate the freeing up of this track so that we can move our train away from Glosser Brothers and come back down on the main line with those boxcars filled with general goods that are going off the map. I mean, by today's standards, it's not a very long train, but by this route's standards, it's probably relatively long. So next on tap, we'll be going over to Huskins and getting the train filled with limestone and sand on its way over to Grundy's. We'll also be checking in on the refinery. Got some cars there. Two of them are going to Shawnee, and the other 2 are going to Standard Oil Refinery in Old Town. Not refinery, sorry, the Standard Oil facility, distribution facility, former refinery in Old Town. And if you like slow trains action, you've come to the right place. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that there was some indication on the train's Discord that the new patch was coming out with the new plant factory assets and that whole system. I have not seen any evidence that You know, I thought it was going to be coming out within days, but now almost more than a week has passed since they started talking about that was imminent. So I'm not sure about that. Really looking forward to that, and I think it's especially relevant for this area and for this route because, you know, some of the spline grasses really are quite noticeable in trains, and it would be really great if we could improve on that and also improve on the performance, where I believe splines are also problematic from a performance standpoint. Though I don't really know. I have not tested that. Now, after we get this train fully on this track, then I will pull the train out from Gloucester Brothers. One thing that I have noticed with the multi-industry 2 is that where the loading takes place is not always directly below where the little commodity bar is, not necessarily directly at the location of the MI2. So you may notice that here, that the loading is starting at a little bit further away from where the this little loading, actual physical loading facility is located. Maybe it gives a slightly better effect in my opinion, but subject to debate and subject to change. Try to be very careful here with the end of that track. Yeah, it looks like I may have over-adjusted it, but we'll see. Okay, so now we have totally have the whole train loaded. Let's flip that switch. Come back out here. I believe we are in Vonnie with Tyler. And Tyler is ready to go off the map to Juniata. So, given that it looks like it's a straight shot, we're going to have Tyler just get off the train. And as usual in this situation, we have Waza. And now we will head you off the map, navigate to Portal Juniata Track 1 South. We can move along to Jessica. And Jessica, you are going to also go on autopilot here. 200 Grundy's cement. Looks good. Okay, next we have Tram. Tram is just has made it to her destination, but unfortunately she didn't park in such a way that any of these cars could load. So let's just rectify that. I was somewhat intending that they should have been loaded by now. But I think that will be a very quick fix. And that is that. We'll be back to Tram momentarily. Okay, right. We need to be here with Amy. I'm sure that does actually happen in real life where the engineer has to blow the horn even though they're stationary for a grade crossing. Avery Suites is one of the first industries we visited, and it's also therefore one of the first industries that I did any lengthening of the loading track to facilitate longer trains. I think my changes have been rather modest, rather minimal. Hope you agree. And I think we should be able to put these cars on this abandoned track Looks like it goes roughly down. Just, well, okay, this is actually a traffic stopper here, a bumper. It just looks like 2 ties. But I think there's plenty of space. And indeed, there is. Is there space enough to let the traffic flow, though? Okay, there is, but not enough to let it flow prototypically. All right, and we just have 4 more. Of course, this is our second visit to Avery, so... Get ourselves lined up. Now I have adjusted this one as well since last time, just because the alignment was not what it should have been. There we go. Okay, Thomas has our steel rods, and our steel rods, I believe, are going to Juniata. Eagle's here. Hello. And it is almost noon, and in terms of the completion of the extended session, I feel that Pennsylvania and Berwind is a little bit behind track. Definitely it is behind where we are with the Wallace branch in terms of the extended playthrough. It does look like it's going to take a little bit longer on the Pennsylvania and Berwind to finish all these tasks. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like to design complexity into the playthrough, and I like to be surprised by the complexity. Of course, I also made some little mistakes, like we just mentioned, talking about that added a little bit more time to the PNB playthrough, because I had not played through this route before. But yeah, that's kind of interesting because according to the spreadsheet, we're actually underway with all the tasks on the PNB, but it just seems like the number of things left to do to complete and the number of trains motions we'll have to make are going to be more on the PNB as opposed to the Wallace branch, where many things seem to be able to be handled at once. Checking where these need to go. Don't go too fast. Yes, these are all going to Juniata, but Thomas, in his little SW1200, Thomas is not going to be the man to take care of that. All right, here we are in the cab view for the SW1200, and this is the only cab that I have somewhat finished of the 6 cabs that I have assigned myself to do. I think it looks pretty good. Self-evaluation, I know, but one of the things I really like is how the, and I'm sure this is not unique to this locomotive, but how the throttle notches are accurately portrayed. And I had a chance to sit in an EMD cab just a few weeks ago, and I can say that the font that I just happened to choose for this is very similar to the font that was used in the real thing. Another mystery that I feel happy about solving in the cab design was how glass was appearing as fully transparent, even though it had lots of textures on it. So I managed to solve that by realizing that if you put just a cube of glass somewhere in the model, that fixes that issue. And this traffic light definitely goes off very quickly. Where are we going to put Thomas? It was so nice of the cops to, you know, stop for this train. I'm impressed. Lights blaring and everything. Crime is just going to have to wait. There we go. And everything here is looking good. I'll just go down this yard ladder. To our final track. One frustrating thing about cab view for trains is there's not much you can do in cab view except control the engine controls, which is obviously true to real life. But if you can only control the switches from outside, there is a tendency that to have to stay outside for most of the time. I do find myself gravitating towards the bird's eye view anyway, just because I might be controlling multiple trains. But I do appreciate the cab view and how that really is where we should be spending more of our time, if you know what I'm saying. One of the things about the SW1200 and the SW1500 is very high visibility towards the outside, meaning that you really can see a lot of the exterior of the locomotive that you yourself are sitting in. It's not just the outside view. And that means that there's a bit of a premium on having the exterior that is visible from the cab actually match the livery of the locomotive that you're supposed to be driving, which some locomotives, understandably, are not modeled that way. It's nice to see another train passing us here as we're going along. That is, of course, Jessica heading to Grundy's. Going in the opposite direction from us. But we are ready. We're ready to fly on over here to the refinery again. Check out whether our fuel oil has indeed loaded, which it probably should have. Indeed it has. Of course, I have to actually get in the locomotive that I'm going on. Okay, so now back to Isla. So yeah, now Universal Sugar was pretty much just a two-shunt industry. What would have been 3 or 4 movements required otherwise. Of course, we're missing 2 cars. We still need to load 2 more spent grains from Universal. But this is not an urgent task. I think we just want to clear the track out and get these cars on their way is probably more important. Must be ever so slight upgrade because Isla is struggling a little bit to go up this hill. If you can call it a hill. Or it's just a heavy train. 1,600 tons. Isla should easily be able to handle that, though. Okay, we're gonna head Isla to Laurel Siding instead of to Juniata. Most of the all the cars except 2 are going to Juniata, but yeah, this way we'll be able to take 2 of the cars to Shawnee Team Track. I believe Shawnee should take priority over getting these industries serviced by taking these cars off the map, although it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but... Okay, in terms of next moves, I think what we might want to consider is putting a caboose on to Tram and heading Tram over to Shawnee. This is such a small train, I think it's worthwhile. Also, Philippe, who's in this consist of cabooses, Philippe needs to go to servicing anyway, so maybe it's not a bad idea to get Philippe moving. Okay, we're totally on this track now. We're not in control of the train, but totally in control, and totally on that track, so that's great. Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's not aligned correctly. Now this is a sort of luxurious movement that I anticipate would only be possible in an empty yard where you just sort of have infinite choices about how to get the caboose on the end of the train. How they would do it in real life, I don't know, but I'm sure this is not how they would do it. And yes, I have passed a signal of danger. That's how things go some days. Just have to live a dangerous life. And here we have our little train, and although you may think these switch engines should just stay in the yard, for such a short train going only a couple of miles, I think it's justified that we send them off like this. Navigate to Shawnee. I'm not sure if this is Shawnee Team Track or Shawnee Bulk. But the point is that that is looking good. Philippe, the blue Conrail SW here, is going to be going to servicing shortly. All right, while we are here, let us consolidate our different trains that are going to Juniata. And unfortunately, we do have to do a run around here in order, no, not a run around, but we do have to go around this track. I guess we don't have to go all the way to the end of the yard, though. Aha, we're not in the head engine here. I wish you could sort of walk forward like you could in Derail Valley, but that's the way it goes. Let's get a little better view of it here. I guess I could have gone on the inside track instead of the outside track as well. Don't know why that happens sometimes when the window pops up in the middle of the screen. Not really running anything in the background. Okay, let's just run this across, which is what we've been doing. Yeah, it definitely would be nicer to be in the one engine back. You really cannot see that much from this vantage point. The way this yard is set up, you sort of find yourself running through the passenger part of the station quite a bit. And I believe it really is based on the real yard in, not Allegheny, but in some town in Pennsylvania. But the way that west yard is set up, you basically only access it from the east side by running through the passenger station. So I don't really know how you do this otherwise. The alternative is we could back on the main line all the way to the opposite side of that yard and then go in, forward, and then back up again in order to couple together with the train that we're trying to couple together with. Doesn't seem very efficient to me. Now observe, we actually do have an engineer in both of these locomotives, so is there a way for me to get in the Reading Line's locomotive? Yes. Perfect, perfect, perfect. It is, of course, the same exact cab interior, it's just a different vantage point. Eagle says, given the fact that there aren't any passenger trains, using the station to shunt is not unusual. Yeah, it happens even here. Yep, but, you know, still feel sad for those people on the platform getting all disappointed to see a freight train passing through. Unless you're on a tourist train, when you're standing on an actual passenger train platform, you rarely see anybody acting like a rail fan. I'd say you more see people acting like they're the opposite of rail fans. And even though I love trains, I do find myself usually falling into that category when I'm trying to catch a train. Of course, 80% of the time when I'm catching a train, I am catching the same train that I have caught many times before, and so I'm not prepared mentally for anything interesting. If I'm outside my home area catching a train, then of course I'm going to be excited, even if all the other people are not. It's just the way of the world. Okay, let's leave that there. We sort of want to continue on with that train, but I'm not going to. We're going to go back to tram. But tram is just arriving here at the Shawnee team track. Oh, bell started again. Okay, which ones of these cars is actually going to... So I think it's the fuel oil. Got our roosters. Yes, it's the fuel oil that will be going to Shawnee. Now, where does fuel oil actually unload? If it's here, then we're okay. How do I actually click on the track, though? Fuel oil is indeed here, so we should be okay to unload there. But I am certain that, essentially, tram is not going to actually stop at the correct location based on what we already saw tram do at the refinery. So let's just keep powering on. .10-mile-an-hour speed limit here, in theory, but nobody in the area cares. Oh, and I am totally wrong about being totally fine on space. Jeez. We are unloading that, but we're not going to be able to unload the other one. That is for sure. Somebody miscalculated. Who would that be? Okay, Isla did not quite make it where we needed Isla to go. So I think Isla is going to back this train into siding, which probably is pretty obvious based on what you're seeing on screen right now if you're even watching, but not the whole train. Just 2 cars will go into the main line and be set out there. They don't have to go far. Shawnee Team Track, where we just were, is not far away. I love that echoing horn sound on these RS-11s. It should be far enough. No? Alright, come on back. It's one of these switches with an illuminated reflector or lantern. Looks very modern to me. Okay. Did I not switch that? Dog is barking. He's annoyed. That's the dog. Presuming he's barking at something in that tree. He or she. I must have clicked it twice. And yes, if I had been more familiar, I would have known from the lamp color that that was in the reversed direction. Don't know what I was thinking. Ah, there we go. Nice. So yeah, I thought Adair was sitting here. We were going to consolidate our two trains with Adair, and Adair would help us with these two cars. But Adair seems to have moved on. Might be something to look into. But since Adair is not here, I think Isla's next move is very obvious, which is to drive off the map. Yeah, it's hard to see that switch the way that tree is aligned. They need to cut that tree down. I mean, they cut down these other trees. Obviously, that must have been the reason, right? They're blocking our view of the switch when we're orbiting around, as a conductor does. Not like those earthbound conductors who wouldn't really be standing in somebody's yard while looking at when to throw a switch. Okay, Isla, tell you what. You're going to get off the train. And now we're going to get Smiley. And Smiley, you are going to go to Juniata. Okay, we are back with Amy, and we're just going to finish off this one last task. One last task for today. Well, second to last task for today. Now, we are back here with Smiley, and Smiley, we just headed off the map, but unfortunately we are going to have to send Smiley back to the Laurel siding where we just came from, because I found Adair. Adair was actually on the Laurel siding, and I just didn't realize that because Laurel siding, turns out, is very long, goes way around the corner, has a crossover track and everything. Just haven't gotten familiar enough with the route to realize that. So as a result, that means that Adair can help out with the switching out of this train. You know, one of the cars needs to go to Shawnee. Now, it turns out I set out 2 cars from this train to go to Shawnee. So one thing about sending Smiley back is that we can actually pick up one of those cars, and that will help as well. I'm going to do what I think that they would do in real life and just set out everything and take only that one car into the team track. And then that will be one of the tasks completed. Did I not throw the switch again? It's ironic, but of course that often happens most when I'm actually in a hurry. I'm sure you can agree that that's when that person tends to make a mistake. But there is simply no doubt in my mind that we are going to complete this task. But it is also somewhat confirming in my mind that the complexities of the P&B mean that it is definitely proceeding a little bit more slowly than anticipated. Okay, let's stop there. Lot of, is it sunflowers? Yellow flowers at any rate, daisies. And some amazingly parallel wheat. I ask you, if you knew that the bread you were eating today came from such parallel lines of wheat, would you be frightened? Or would you say, that is the type of wheat I want to start my day with? Okay, am I going to crash? I'm going to say that's more realistic. And it looks like that is indeed unloading. So, in terms of where we want to start our day, we'll decide about that later, but this is where we're going to end our session for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're looking forward to as well our next session on the Pennsylvania Berwind, which will be session number 19, when we'll be coming back, of course, to Tram and reconnecting this train and heading off to Old Town. So, until then, see you later. Hope to see you next time. Cheers.